I'm going to do two things I've never done before. One, camp in November, and two, stealth camping. So, we'll see how it goes. I've got the camera. They'll walk away and come back again. Who picks up the camera? Hello from a secret location in Surrey. Got here much later and it's dark, although it's just going dusk. And I don't know if I've got sterilisation on this, so apologies if it's all over the up. But we're just walking up now. Unfortunately the bus took an extra half an hour. I wanted to leave, I left it late anyway, so I just left later than I really wanted to be. So, yes, I wanted to shoot a video, which I might be able to do because it's about head torches anyway, but I'm a bit worried about flashing lights and stuff around where I want to, you know what. It sounds strange that I'm being all coy, but to be brutally honest, I don't know who's listening. So the tent is up. That was a bit of a nightmare. It took me ages to get it up, especially in the dark, because I got here too late. So, we shall see. I don't know if you can see me. But yes, first ever wild camp, or stealth camp. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, we're cooking dinner. Unfortunately it started raining. We're fairly lucky. I did look at all the weather reports, but you know, it's always going to possibly rain. It's November. I'm getting a bit cold now, but that's probably because I stopped and filmed a video. It's always the way when you're static. Otherwise I could show you my... Ouch! Ow! How to bang yourself in the face with a bungee zip. I did not know. New down jacket. By Fjern, and it is very good. It's much better than the Decathlon MT100. That's a little bit light, and this is kind of somewhere in between that and the. There's an MT. This is better than the MT500, which is a bit of a waste of money, really. I think the next step up, but it's got kind of Teflon coated down, and it's a much nicer jacket, and I had it reduced via Sport Pursuit. Sport Pursuit do not sponsor me, but yeah, no, it's keeping me warm at the moment. Although it's a bit cold out here, it's going to be 5 degrees, so we'll see how we go. But yeah, no, it's a nice jacket. It was reduced in the sales, in the Black Friday sales, so it was only, you know, it's supposed to be several £100, and you can tell when I got it, I was like, oh, this is quality, MT100 is a little bit kind of, it's a bit of a cheap jobby, it feels very synthetic, and it's a good little jacket for, I would say, between 5 and 10. You can go down to 0, but I think you'd have to layer more, whereas this works a lot better. Keep hearing motorbikes around here. I know people come here up at night. So, we'll see. There's a road up to the top. And people do come here. So, anyway, let's see if my dinner is done. Or bubbling. I'm going to try the simmering in a minute. Yes, it's boiling. I need to try the simmering now. Used a lot more fuel than I was expecting. It is very windy. So anyway, the simmer mode is a bit extreme, but it worked really well. I actually made the fuel last for ages, so good. Well, I survived the night. No, I can't speak. My mouth's a bit dry because I ran out of water. It's just turned just after 6:30. It's dawn, and I survived. My first ever wild camp. I went to bed about just after 9, and I woke up about 3:30, and then I did a few things. The podcast Jaunt, which is anchorfm.jaunt. There is a related, more art related, but sort of camping related podcast, which I have been running for a year or two, or over a year. And so I did that, and then it chucked it down, and then there were some weird noises around the tent, which I don't know if it was deer or just the rain through the trees. So I went out and had a piss and got my chair. Yes, I have my chair with me, which I've not shown you yet. I've got an Alp kit chair, which I'll show you later. First time I'm using that. I got it with a massive discount because of reviews on things and member discounts, so I got it cheaply. It's a bit too heavy actually, but it's alright for this kind of thing. It's not raining now. I have a wet tent fun. I'm about to take the tent down. And yeah, success. I got 5-6 hours sleep. It wasn't too cold. In fact, I've put my base layers back on now, but initially I took them off because I was a bit worried, because it's like, oh, it's quite cold. Taking layers off, it's a bit, like what you do with hypothermia, but turns out I was better off taking them off. I was warmer without them. I had my socks on and space layers on, and actually I was getting colder with them. I was getting much too hot with the Aegis Max bag. Can't really see it, but the the Cedar Summit. It's purple. It's orange. The Cedar Summit Reactor Light Extreme, or Extreme Light, or what the it's called. And that's the first time I've used that. I've used this bag quite a few times, but it's rated at -5, and 5, not -5, no way. 5, and it's a little bit optimistic, not far off, but I think I would have been cold just with, even though it was 5 degrees last night, although it was it was a lot colder in the wind. It was like 1 or 0 in the wind, but out the wind it's about 5, and the bag, it's a bit optimistic to try and expect it to. I think the lower comfort level is really close to a limit, but it's not far off, and some people have taken it down to 0. So the Nano 2 is pretty good for that, but I suspect they were probably wearing base layers and other things, whereas I got too warm, and it was making me colder because I was sweating too much. So I then took it off, and it was a lot warmer. But now I'm a bit cold now. I've put it back on. But that's because I couldn't sleep after the rain, and then dragging the chair out of the rain, and then hearing those noises. But I think it was just deer. Anyway. So, yeah, that was a success. I'm going to pack the tent up now, and before it gets too light, it's soon to be sunrise, and sort of, I'm going to be around here for a bit, doing some filming and hopefully some drawing, maybe, if it's not too wet out there. It's not supposed to be. And then head home. But if we get a tent down, then it sort of doesn't means that that's the main worry over. I don't have to worry about that, and people just think I'm a hiker. So anyway, see you in a bit. Like I was never there. Leave no trace, everyone. Leave no trace. So that's the view. I'm going to do a drawing of that in a minute, I think. Luckily everything's all packed up now. It's, what is it, 7:30? Something like that. Oh, I can't tell the time's on the thing. So yes. So I said about the Alp kit. Let's see if I can put it together. Well, I have done it once before. It's a bit of an arse to put together. I'll probably do a time lapse. Well, that was fun. Yeah, it's probably fall over. It fell over again halfway through that. It's the wind. It's the wind, and also I'm on a hill, so there is actually a bench over there, but it's just so wet I just couldn't face another thing, and I brought the chair, so I thought it's an excuse to use it. So yeah, it was a good night. There's only one thing, is that I possibly lost my red. I was wearing a red Blair Witch hat. Don't know if you noticed it in the video. If I've lost it, yeah, I'm not going to be very consistent in future videos. Luckily, I think I'm out of shot of everything. But apologies for the wind. The little windshield is broken, so I don't know if you're hearing the wind. I don't know if you're hearing this at all. But yes, it was a good night. Peaceful. So, yeah, let's make some breakfast if we can do so here. This is very tippy on this thingy. I need to find a more level surface. Anyway. So, yes, breakfast is on. Unfortunately, I'm enough water, I think, I have to make a choice of whether I was going to have some Quaker oats. And in the, obviously, luminous Orecassi bowl, which I was using last night for the risotto. But that needs 170ml, and I've got like 250ml, and I want to have some coffee as well. So you do the math. So yeah, yay! I'm wondering whether I can get away with less water in this. I do actually have some of these awful things. Breakfast bars, but they're just basically chocolate bars, those things. Also, last night, what I was having was this. Aldi's own make of these coffee things. Pre-made coffee things. I usually don't do these, but it's just more convenient, and they're cheap. But they had like double mocha chocolate. It wasn't that chocolatey, but it was nice. It was very welcome. Let's see if this is... Oh, careful. Ooh, I think that might be boiling. We don't lose too much water. So yeah, look at that! Yay! So the alcohol stove has been a success. Though. It's been surprising how much it uses in fuel. Not sure if it ever does a proper rolling boil, but don't know. Doesn't seem to. But I do wonder whether my DIY caldera cone has got too many holes in. I might see block up, because it was sort of struggling a bit last night. The simmering is a success. This is the simmering, and that's really good. They still boiled with that. It was bubbling with that, but it was. So we have to, as with everything, oh, watch out, I'll drop my camera, we have to experiment. But yeah, it'd be nice to get some, after that night, to actually get some, at least some, maybe some hot coffee. And I've moved to the bench, but I've still got my chair. And this is the view. Amazing view. I've drawn part of that before. I've drawn this bit here and this bit here several times. I didn't say that. There's a road that goes up there, but it'd be interesting to actually do that as a time lapse, which is what I'm intending to do. That's why we want some. Oh, everything's falling over. That's why I want some coffee. So I managed to get my. Oh, I managed to find my hat. Yeah, continuity's going to be fun, isn't it? Look, I'm shooting this in series. It's now going to be called the Blair Witch hat, because I realised in the middle of the night that I was wearing this red hat like the woman in Blair Witch in the middle of a forest at night, alone. That wasn't the best realisation, I have to say. But I'm glad I found it. This is a Horns of Odin hat. I don't know if they make them anymore. They had some kind of sale, and unfortunately all they had was red. I would have preferred black, personally. I'm not really a red person. Sorry, Adriana, in case you're actually unlikely. A friend of mine, Adriana, has red hair, and is very much of the red. But yes, we've got my. I've got what it's called. Porridge. It's the cold. Got my porridge with some nuts and rather incredibly healthy, far too healthy stuff in it. Currants and raisins and I have a tiny puddle of coffee, which is fast going cold. So that's breakfast. Actually, I was saying about, it doesn't rolling boil. It seriously boiled heavily, lots of steam. As soon as I turned the camera off, I was like, oh, it does. It does. It's just you have to put lots of fuel in. So, yes. I realised as well last night, when I mentioned in the tent, because I packed up quickly, I actually was spotted. Though I didn't get any aggro, but there was a couple of early morning walkers. And they must have seen the tent, because it was right by the path, but they didn't say anything. So I very hurriedly got the tent down. I thought I'd heard someone pass earlier, and it was kind of around just after sunrise. So I really should have done that earlier. Of course, I broke the usual rule because I was like, I want to do a video in the tent before I go. It's stupid. This is how people get caught. Sorry, if it's not in the UK, anywhere that's not Scotland, you can't camp. Apart from in Dartmoor. So, I mean, the people in the States like, what is the fuss about? Oh, wild camping. Anyone can wild camp. Yeah, in your parks you can. In our parks and beauty areas and, in quotes, public things held in public trust, public land. I'm not sure about commons. I think commons that you're not allowed to either. But places that aren't private but are got public access, you can't camp in them. Places that are private, you can't camp in them, unless you've got permission. But it's a civil offence. It is not a criminal offence here. The Tories are trying to make it so because they're a bunch of... they try and do social media things, they have all the lights on, or they put the tent up during the day or whatever. That's how you get caught and told to move on. In the UK, I'll probably have to censor that out. But the guy who owns some land, who I'm sure, I almost guarantee is a Tory grandee, but I'd have to look it up. But there was one guy. So for most of this year, Dartmoor had its status taken away as being the only place in England you could legally camp, and that's a bit of a problem because a lot of Duke of Edinburgh, a lot of scouts, and a lot of people go. A lot of people do wild camping tours there. Like trips and stuff like that. That was defeated. Yay! I think in August, somewhere around then. But apparently, just one guy who had a bit of property there, and he somehow managed to make it. He brought an injunction or something, and then the injunction was overturned. And it just sounds like evil of these things. So yes, you're not supposed to. It's a case of, some places they turn a blind eye, like the Peak District. And the Lake District and a few of those places, the Dales. It depends where, when, who. If the local farmer catches you or has a problem, or if the ranger sees you. That's what I was concerned about here, where the ranger would see me. But given the local cafe doesn't open until 10, I suspect there's nobody. There are people wandering through, but there's nobody official here until 10 o'clock. And that's the reason why I couldn't get any more water, because there used to be a tap there, and then it broke, or COVID or something. Well, it broke before COVID, I think. And I don't know if they've... I've talked so many times about this on Jaunt, my podcast, which I think I mentioned earlier. The access to water is really important and a real issue for hikers, because so many places you just don't have free access to water. You've got access to water like when something's open, like a pub or whatever, but if you happen to be walking on a Sunday or a public holiday or the Queen's funeral or something, some day where everything is closed, you can't really depend. We should have more water fountains and more public taps available for everyone 24 hour. They don't shut them down like some toilets. They have water and then they all shut it all down. And I've come across that as well. So yeah, that was the reason why I couldn't just go because I used to have a tap there and I could have done that, but not in the last couple of years unless they put it back there. And so yeah, I thought I was fairly safe on that. Remains to be seen in future whether I come back here and do a bit more. I spotted a few other places that are a bit more stealthy. I chose a place I did because the more stealthy places, it was dark, and those places were kind of like under a pine tree, so it's very dry. But it's a bit like it'll fit. I think my tent would have fit, but it would have been fun trying to get all the little needles and stuff out the way, and pine cones and stuff. And another one I knew of, which I didn't want to camp into because it's a place where birds never sing. It's one of those really, if you're talking about Blair Witch, one of those places where I've drawn there and painted there. And when I painted there at dusk, it got dark, and a bird flew into me, then the bird disappeared. It was really weird. I call it the Green Wood, and that place is spooky. And I didn't want to camp there, but I know places there around there which are no one goes there. Hardly anyone goes there. And it's in a valley as well, so it's fairly sharp. But that's my duck, my stealth camping, nearly wild camping duck. Virginity has been taken, so that's good. There was always a danger because I get quite spooked by things sometimes, but I felt quite, and maybe it's just because the brush of the wind in the trees and stuff was quite soothing. It felt like a good place. That's the reason why I didn't want to go into the other wood, because it doesn't really matter whether there's anything weird there. It's more your mind set, and if you're not feeling it and something's wrong, it's always good to follow your instincts. If something's wrong or you see someone watching, I've almost wild camped a few times and had someone with bloody binoculars surveying me from a cliff. And I was like, get out of here. So there's been a few close calls when it came to wild camping and stealth camping. But any wild camping in the UK, apart from Dartmoor, is stealth camping, as Daly commented in his video. But it's true. It's you can't do apart from Dartmoor. But Scotland has a right to roam, and we need a right to roam law here. It was very important to me for it to be a good experience. It was very important to me to have nothing go wrong. and not to be scared by anything. I have a feeling they might be made up. All those ghost camping videos from Grizzly Gaz, they feel like staged, but even if they're not, it's quite spooky. It's always something that scares me, the idea of I'm not scared of ghosts and paranormal. I'm scared of people. I'm not scared of animals in this country because we don't have bears and we don't have wolves and we don't have the sort of animals that are going to cause you too much trouble, apart from maybe a cow might go and try and steal your rucksack, as it happened recently. Tried to eat my rucksack and eat my toes. And you'll get deers coming up if they smell food. It's one of the reasons why I cooked away from the tent, to avoid having lights near the tent, and also to have... it's all gone grey. It was lovely and sunny now, and now it's gone... yeah, I hope it's not going to rain. To be away from the tent, to be away from all that, and also to have the scent of food away from... So the foxes and the deer go and investigate the bench rather than where I'm sleeping. But yeah, I heard some of them last night, sort of hurrumphing away. They make a weird noise. It sounds like a asthmatic smoker. Especially stags in Richmond Park, they make some really weird noises. And you're like, they really scare you, and you're like, ah, and you find out, oh, it's a deer. So yeah, I was aware of that, but nothing serious. No, it's people. In this country, it's people. People messing with you, people robbing you. It's very rare, but it still is a possibility. So that was the anxiety around it. Is, as I say, in other countries, it's like, oh, wild animals, bears. Here it's, oh, some scallywag, some junkie who robs you. Come to Britain, everyone. No, that again is very rare, and if you're away from everyone, it depends how wild you are. If you're in real wilderness, proper wilderness, like Peak District and Yorkshire Dales and stuff like that, you won't see anyone to rob you. Whereas, unfortunately, I can't really afford to go to those places, and so I'm stealth camping in places which are commuter belt, so it's semi-rural, but also a mix of rural and not rural. Oh, the mist is coming down. Is this drawing going to happen? Damn. So, near London and, London outskirts and south east, which tends to have people. And, yeah, so you have to have your wits about you, I think. And, I'm less scared of bears. If we had bears here, it would be less of a problem. You kind of understand what bears want, whereas people, I'm showing my neurodiversity here, but yeah, people, yeah, they're the true monsters, they're the true animals. So it was important that it was a good, a good thing, and it has been. They finally fixed it. I wish I'd known that.